Fellas, there are a few fighters in the UFC with unique but extremely strange haircuts, so I'm going to be doing a tier list on fighters' haircuts in the UFC, specifically the fighters that have the more weirder haircuts or unusual haircuts. S tier being I really like the hair, even though it's unique and it might be a bit weird, I think it suits them really well. And then D tier being they're in the 7th layer of hair, I think their hair's terrible and they need to shave it off or go for a different style because it just doesn't suit them. So I've chosen a couple of the most strangest haircuts in the UFC that I could find. Specifically the active fighters, and a lot of them, fought recently as well, which is ironic. So yeah, tier list from S tier to D tier. Let me know if I missed anyone out, because I'm sure I have. Starting off with the first fighter on this list, and I'm going with Yuri Prochazka. Now, the thing about Yuri's haircut is if any other fighter was to use this hair, like imagine Alexander Volkanovski was walking around with this haircut, he'd be bullied out of the UFC. So if any other fighter was to use it, they'd be bullied out of the UFC and it would be a D tier. But it's because Yuri Prochazka's using it. I'm going to put it in A tier. I think it suits him really well because his whole theme is the samurai spirit and he's got this big samurai theme going on. I think it suits him really well, and I think it kind of looks badass in the octagon. I think it suits him really well in the octagon, and I think, like I said, if any other fighter was to use this, it would be horrible. But I'd actually prefer Yuri to use this than any other haircut. I know he's had different haircuts in the past in different promotions and it looked kind of horrible. So I'm glad that Yuri Prochazka's going with this style, and for him, I think it suits him and it's unique. I don't think anyone disagrees and thinks it's a bad haircut. I think everyone just looks at it, thinks it's unique and knows that it suits Yuri Prochazka. So I'm starting off on a high note. I'm going to put Yuri's haircut in A tier, and I'm glad that he's got it. I think it definitely adds to his whole style of the samurai fighter, the crafty samurai fighter. I think it suits him really well. So starting off with Yuri, I'm going to put in A tier. I don't have a problem with his hair. I think it goes really well, and I think it suits him really well as well. If it was to go to any other fighter, probably D tier, but because it's Yuri, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I'll give him an A tier for this one. Next fighter, we got Max Holloway. Now, when you think of bad haircuts, Max Holloway isn't the first fighter to come to your mind, but I feel like ever since the Arnold Allen fight, I'm not sure what's been going on with Holloway's hair. It's like you look at his PNG and it looks like a 12-year-old who's just got a perm and he started taking pictures for his Instagram story or something like that. I don't know what's going on with his hair. I'm not a massive fan of it though. I liked his old haircut back in like 2020 and 2019 and maybe 2021 as well. I feel like ever since the Arnold Allen fight, this new haircut that he's adopted, I'm not a big fan of it. He's got really short sides and it looks like he hasn't got a perm, but I don't know what he's done with his hair. I'm gonna put it in C tier. I'll put it in B tier actually. I don't think it's horrible. Like I said, when you think of bad haircuts, you don't think of Max Holloway, but I don't know what's been going on in his last few fights with this haircut. It's a bit odd, and I definitely preferred his old one. Yeah, just looks like a 12-year-old who's got a perm now. Doesn't really suit Max Holloway, in my opinion. Not a horrible haircut. I don't think it's one of the worst in the UFC. I don't think it's laughable, but yeah, I preferred his old haircut, so I'm going to quickly move off Holloway, put him in B tier. Next fighter, we have Marcin Tybura. Now, he's got a new haircut for his title with Arza fight, and I have no clue what's going on. I'm going to have to put it in C tier. Dare I say he reminds me of a German man. Yeah, Marcin Tybura, it's kind of, I don't know what's going on with his hair. It's like he went for a haircut, and then halfway through, I don't know what's going on. Half of his hair's shaved off, the other half's on. I don't know what he was thinking. Maybe it's a big haircut in Poland, but I've never seen any other Polish person look like this before. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why he shaved his hair like this. Maybe he wanted to bring more attention to himself because he's main event in a fight night, but then surely you do that for the Tom Aspinall one as well. Yeah, I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know if he's joking. I don't know if that's a serious haircut. I'm not sure if that, like I said, if that's the style in Poland, but personally, I think it looks horrible. Not that he's ever had a good haircut. I mean, his old haircut was pretty boring as well, but this one, if you're going to go bold, go bold. Wow, shaving half of your hair off. I think when he asked for half of his hair off, I think he was meant to say that he wanted it, cut half short and not half off, half on. Yeah, not sure what he's doing with that hair. Wasn't a big fan of it, but maybe it's a new mythical fighter. Maybe there's a new mythical fighter about Marcin Tybura with half of his hair gone. Mythical fighter. I mean, he was able to finish two with Arza in the first round. Looked really well doing so. Yeah, Tybura. Can't fucking speak today. I keep getting them mixed up. Arza and Tybura. Anyway, Tybura, C tier. Not a big fan of the haircut. Next fighter, Sean O'Malley. Now, Sean O'Malley's always had kind of, frizzy hair, different coloured hair, but I think Sean O'Malley's current hair is his best. I'm going to put it in S tier. Now, I know a lot of people think he looks like a clown, and I understand why you think that, but personally, I'm actually a fan of Sean O'Malley's hair. I think the colours go well together really well, especially with the fact that it matches the shorts, and I think out of all the fighters with dyed hair, I think Sean O'Malley pulls it off the best. I think it suits his hair really well because he's got, you know, frizzy hair. Kind of looks like he's got a wig on most of the time. But I can't lie, it goes hard in the octagon. The braids, and then, you, like I said, the fact that he's got like a colour scheme going on, and it's different in every fight as well. It's not like it's always the same. Sometimes it'll be you know, yellow. Sometimes it'll be green. Sometimes it'll be red. I like how it's a different style every fight, and I think Sean O'Malley pulls it off really well. It looks good. People who disagree that it looks good probably just hate Sean O'Malley, to be completely honest with you. I want to look for an excuse to call him a clown. But me personally, I think it's one of the better ones in the UFC, and I'm going to put in A tier. I would be disappointed if Sean O'Malley went back to his boring brown brunette hair, or he just, you know, because I know he had that really early on in his career when he was on, you know, the Contender Series, but now that he's started colouring it more, I actually think it suits him. Like I said, not the biggest fan of people dyeing their hair, but I think out of everyone that's done it, Sean O'Malley suits it the most. So I'm going to put Sean O'Malley in S tier. I think he pulls it off really well. Yeah, Sean O'Malley in S tier for this list. I think he's probably one of the better haircuts in the UFC. Next fighter, Paddy Pimblett. Now, I know most people are going to be calling for D tier. Most people absolutely hate Paddy Pimblett's haircut, but I'm going to put it in B tier. Now, the reason I'm putting it in B tier is because, again, it is a horrible hair. In fact, no, I'll put it in C tier. It is a horrible haircut, right? It's a terrible haircut. If any of us was to see a guy walking down the street with his hair, they'd be bullied. But one thing I must say about Paddy Pimblett is I feel like his haircut is his brand. He needs to have the bad haircut. If Paddy Pimblett was to shave his hair off, or he was to go to average hair, I don't think he'd have nearly half as much as the hype he has nowadays. I mean, if Paddy Pimblett was to come into the UFC in his debut and he didn't have the crazy hair, he'd probably just be another boring prospect who tends to, you know, like talking on the microphone. I think his hair has a massive part of the reason he's so popular, to be completely honest with you. I did like it in his last fight against Tony Ferguson, how he braided it up instead of just letting it, you know, go. Because when he was getting hit in his previous fights, his hair made it look like there was so much impact when he was getting hit, and I don't know if that had anything to do with the judges. I mean, even if it did, I mean, he was still getting robberies over, what's his name, Jared Gordon. But anyway, Paddy Pimblett, I'm going to put in C tier. He's a ridiculous haircut, but I think it suits him really well. Not suits him really well, but I think he needs to have this haircut because it's his whole brand. His bad haircut is literally his brand. So Paddy Pimblett, I'll put him in C tier. Paulo Costa, I'm going to put him in D tier, man. Now, you look at Paulo Costa in this image, and he looks pretty normal, right? His hair's never been terrible, but I don't know what's going on with that Robert Whittaker fight. His hair loss. This guy's losing hair. I don't know if it's the steroids. I don't know if it's the aging, but this guy is balding like crazy. You looked in that Paulo Costa fight. This guy had the biggest bald patch on his head ever, and I think he needs to go get that sorted out. He needs to desperately get it sorted out, because in a few fights' time, Paulo Costa's going to end up having hair like, I don't know, I can't think, he's going to have Dana White hair, put it that way. He needs to get a hair transplant immediately. He needs to get that balding sorted out. Doesn't have a terrible haircut, but the reason I'm putting it in D tier is because if he keeps going on with the, you know, the hair that he's got now, he's going to end up balding. So Paulo Costa, get your hair sorted immediately, and because there's so much urgency, I'm going to put him in D tier. Doesn't have the worst hair, but that balding spot is going to keep growing. Next, we've got Diego Lopez. Now, Diego Lopez has to be I don't know, I'm going to put him in B tier. As a fighter, he's fun, but again, I don't know what's really going on with his hair. It looks like an emo guy. It looks like looks like the type of guy you'd see shooting up a school, this Diego Lopez. Not sure what's going on with his haircut. Not sure who inspired him to get that haircut. Maybe it was a Paddy Pimblett. Maybe he wanted to, you know, maybe it was the Marcin Tybura. Maybe Marcin Tybura got inspired by Diego Lopez, you know, the whole German man vibe. But now, Diego Lopez, I think his haircut's actually, even though it is ridiculous, I kind of think it suits him. There's nothing better than watching Diego Lopez finish someone, and then you look at his hair and he's got the most weirdest haircut you can find. But nah, Diego Lopez, I'll put him in B tier. I don't think he doesn't sit food. I'm not, like, you look at Paddy Pimblett, and I think his hair is his whole brand, whereas I'm not sure Diego Lopez has that excuse. I think people like Diego Lopez for his personality and his fight style. I wouldn't say it's mainly his hair, so I'll put him in B tier for that reason. I have put him above Pimblett though, because it's not as, you know, it's not as bad as Pimblett's. Diego Lopez, I'll put it in B tier. Then we've got Aljamain Sterling. I'm going to put Sterling in A tier. I think he's actually got, like, everyone else in this list has some sort of weird or crazy haircut, and I think Sterling's actually got some of the best hair in the UFC. I think it suits him really well. And that's all I've got to say, really. I think overall it's a clean haircut, especially when it's braided up when he's fighting. I think it suits him really well when it's all braided up when he's in the octagon. Yeah, I don't really have much to say about Sterling. It's not a ridiculous haircut. It's not an unusual haircut. I just think it's one of the few haircuts in the UFC that are actually clean, and I'll put him in A tier for that reason. Yeah, A tier for Sterling. Pretty solid haircut. And then finally, Charles Oliveira. Now, it's not the cut that's the odd part about Charles Oliveira. It's the colour. The blonde colour, and his entire team going around with a blonde haircut. And I feel like any die-hard Charles Oliveira fan has tried dyeing their hair. It's not even blonde. It's like white hair. It's not even blonde hair anymore. It's like full-on white. But Charles Oliveira, I'll put him in B tier. Similar to Paddy Pimblett, it's his brand. His blonde hair is his brand. If you're a Charles Oliveira fan or you're on the Charles Oliveira team, you kind of have to dye your hair white or really light blonde to fit in with a Charles Oliveira fan. So I'll put Oliveira in B tier. It's not a crazy, unusual haircut. It is a dyed haircut. Like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of fighters dyeing their hair, but again, with Charles Oliveira, it does suit his brand. I'm not saying the reason everyone likes him or the reason he's popular is because of his hair colour, but I do think it suits his brand, and I kind of like the fact that when he's walking around in fight week, his entire team have the same hair as him. Some people hate that, but personally, I think it looks kind of cool. But yeah, that's my list of haircuts in the UFC. We got Paulo Costa in D tier, we got Sean O'Malley in S tier, and we got a few fighters in between. Let me know if I missed any fighters off, because listen, there's tons of fighters in the UFC. I'm sure I've definitely missed an obvious fighter with a dodgy haircut. Let me know your thoughts on the list, though. Do you agree or not? Thank you for watching.